but I think it's not here though. We'll see. Oh, it actually could be. I just saw the mini game icon for this location. 10,000. Yeah. Oh, I have 10,000. We're fine. This is going to be jarring for. It's an acquired taste, but it's a creative direction. It's not unprecedented, but it is a creative direction, and one is to expect this. Unlike a lot of journalistic gamers that I've seen reviews of, it's a creative choice. And I can think of a lot of pragmatic ways, and also artistic and creative trade-offs of using this approach, which is rarely ever covered. It's either I feel like this is breaking my immersion, or this takes a little bit to adapt to kind of comment without an explainer. Kei or Ayu? We'll do Kei. Oh, the audio recording is different. Okay, this is close. The hallway effect was interesting. I mean, it sounds alright. It definitely doesn't sound like an American speaking fob Japanese, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if it sounds good to Kiryu, but it sounds fine to me. I could be your speaking partner? Are you okay with handling complimentary?
十分自然だと思うぞ。
本当ですか？日本語で話したくていっぱい勉強したんです。何がいいですか？
So one thing I have to say is she's obviously looking into a ring light, because you can see the ring light in the eyes, right? So she's more or less doing these scenes against a camera that has a gigantic ring light, but that's also very intentional as well. In this game, at least this game series, especially Judgment, Lost Judgment, it's very noticeable, but they still put in those ring light shines. And when you're thinking about it, it's very close to the idea of putting in that little, if you're an artist or someone who watch anime and stuff, you'll notice that there's always an illogical or a non-negotiable like light, like a white dot or a reflection on the eyes. And that's actually a combination of things. It makes it look kind of lively, you know, the sparkling and stuff, but it also has a huge root to filmmaking, and that has become so normalized. I don't know where the intersection is about like putting lights and reflections in eyes to make them feel alive, but at the same time, from the filming perspective, which is like kind of my hobby back then when I was a kid, it's usually the camera. It's a lighting for the filming, and they're doing this here. So while if people are curious, you know, some people are so used to animation at this point, and those who are interested in this stuff probably still just are largely like people who watch shonens or anime or stuff. There is a sort of, maybe, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but I think there's a connection between putting spotlights on your eyes in drawings and stuff with filmmaking. And in this case, that's what it kind of looks like IRL. So if anyone who finds it a little distracting, it's like, dude, I can see the ring light in the eyes. It's like, well, you stare at it a lot. If you ever look at any Japanese animation, there is spotlights that don't have Like you had imagine how to get that spotlight on the eyes in an actual environment. It just works. But it could look awkward since it's live action, right? I'm just saying. It's a slight digression, but it has some deep psychological effects that people intuit, but often sometimes they don't really know. Like if you draw something without that spotlight, you'll get comments like, it just feels like the eyes are lifeless. It's like a lot of times when you're watching live action or animation, it is adding that light source into the eyes. But just so you know, when you're talking to someone, you don't glow like a light bulb. So Kiryu is not a ring light. Just saying. But they did it here. They kept the ring light. Thanks, Josie. They kept the ring light in her eyes. So she's performing to a camera incredibly lit by a ring light. And if you want to see what the difference between them, you want to watch a movie or watch a great production where someone's face is really lit and there's a close-up, you'll probably notice that you can see the eyeball. And a lot of times you can edit it out or not edit it out, but generally speaking, in very close-up stuff, a lot of times it's incredibly pleasing to see the light illuminating the eyeball and then the fair complexion. So I think they could edit out the ring light or use a different type of refractive material to light her. I don't think it's like an example of like cheap, influencer stuff. It's very deliberate. It's dramatic. It's very dramatic. So let's see where this goes. I'm not loaded with cash, yeah. There's no gold. Oh, there is gold champagne. Wait, gold champagne is now cheaper than rose and black champagne? Since when? I could have sworn rose champagne was the cheapest. And black... No. We're not talking about IRL stuff, Josh. I'm talking about RGG Legacy. I'm almost pretty sure gold is usually priced more than rose and black, and rose was the cheapest. I could be not remembering it. We're going with whiskey. How are you with whiskey? Let's go.
Hi. お願いします。Cheers! 乾杯!
That cheers is pretty good. She's born in the... Wait, is this the person that everyone is talking about? The one that is on... Oh, this is her? Oh, I thought she was doing the infinite wealth thing with the VTuber thing for the voice. Oh, like they teased a VTuber on Like a Dragon Infinite. Oh, so yeah. I thought she was literally going to play a VTuber because there's a clip of a VTuber. The trailer featured a VTuber from Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Oh, she auditioned for the hostess. Oh, so this is her. Whoa, that just changes everything. That adds so much weight. Like, I really thought when everyone kept saying VTuber, I thought when I saw the trailer for like some of the stuff in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I was like, oh, that must be her, because it's kind of a forced break. But VTuber are chatting with fictional characters from the Like a Dragon verse. All right, cool, excellent. Select a topic, huh? Man, the Kansai dialect always comes up. Let's ask hobbies.
私の趣味ってゲームなんですけど、上流さんはなんか趣味あるんですか？
Wait, is this true? Does the VTuber like video games? I'm just kidding. She likes this game series. Of course she likes video games. Oh, she used to and now does face cam. Okay. Yeah, true. She did cosplay as well. Do I wait? Oh, okay. Kiryu most definitely gambling. Oh man. Okay. All right. Long story short, this is most definitely a joke. I think it's like a inside joke-ish. So Kiryu doesn't really gamble that much. He actually isn't much of a gambler. But man, historically, Haruka freaking gets Kiryu to gamble all the time. So if he had any hobbies, it would unintentionally also be gambling. And the third one is also true. The third one's also true. He comes to cabaret clubs for not the reason to come to cabaret clubs. Almost more of the time than going for the very reason. So these are true, but they're not true. And then karaoke is the same, only it's a little bit lesser because he does, or he used to do karaoke with Nishikiyama, right? Rest in peace, Nishikiyama. But he lives on in Kasuga. Just we're gonna pick karaoke, obviously.
カラオケだな。
歌好きなんですね。私も大好き。今度聞かせてくださいよ。
Okay, I do have to do a slight appreciation for this. Just bear with me here. This cabaret club is going to be a very divisive approach, right? But for me, I want to pay my respects to RGG for breaking the mold. This is a breaking the mold situation. They have an uphill battle against immersion. They also have an uphill battle against Westerners who predominantly like Japanese products, which typically means animation and often also means 2D animation. So, with that said, there is something pragmatic that I want to say that is not normalized by most, like a really large majority of people who are interested in these types of games and content. And that's the idea of having an appreciation for how much more difficult and dynamic when you ask someone to act everything, including voice acting. So this is an entirely different level, and I'm saying this out of great respect for the voice actors and the animators, and so there are trade-offs, right? The voice actors will continue to be voice actors, which includes acting, live acting. However, the trade-off for a animator and rigging, it offloads it to the actor. So now the actor has even more flexibility and identifiability and dynamics in how they're going to be portrayed. So while you're trading off maybe something you can't do by animation and stuff, like maybe complexion or how certain, like, be more expressiver than the thing than a human face can be, and maybe precision and whatnot, it's mechanical still. And also, this is not the type of game that utilizes stylized animations to create emotions that typically aren't in this situation. So to me, pragmatically speaking, if you are trying to capture the likeness of someone IRL and deal and portray the dynamics of the skills and stuff necessary, the ultimate portrayal would be a physical person who, remember, is acting in front of a camera. So like, I'm only saying this because there is an incredible gap between studying and understanding nonverbal communication and performances versus someone who thinks they understand, and a large population who plays video games have only normalized what it looks like, with a few exceptions like mocap and stuff are advancing, or not mocap, I'm not gonna call them mocap, performance capture has increased, you know, deepfakes and stuff have increased to try to normalize the dynamics of human emotions and responses, squinting movements. It can break your immersion, but the irony is this is the most immersive version of cabaret clubs. Seeing the expressiveness, the movement, the voice acting with the nonverbal cues. To me, I'm sure that's not the intent of RGG, right? RGG probably didn't think about the psychological impacts of using this. I don't think so. Anyways, maybe they differ. But as someone who's constantly talking about the impact of normalizing what you see and how you interact, this is the closest way, in my opinion, one of the closest way to bridge having a whole generation of kids, I would say like a big generation of kids, bridge the gap of tools like flashcards and interactivity and associating them with what it looks like on a human being, like a person who's dynamically expressive and whatnot. It's to the point nowadays most people think like it's contentious that someone would challenge me, especially someone younger, that they would say that animation can capture expressions far more dynamically than the expressions that they are based on, which is a human being. It's not. That's entirely incoherent and illogical. It's explainable, and you can empathize with it for a person who normalizes animation. Even for myself, you know, I love my stylized, my stylized nature. I'm super biased towards stylization that can do things that humans cannot do. But what animation cannot do is capture the full faithfulness and dynamics of humans. So there are trade-offs. Most definitely, anime and stuff can capture certain or express certain things, but they also do them at the expense of not being able to do this. So meanwhile, the reason the deep cut here is it's become so pervasive that social anxiety in social environments in IRL are completely associated with one's hobby and perception of human interaction through animation. To the point it hampers communication. This is the biggest deep cut. It involves me and me interpreting this, or video games interpreting this. When someone comes into another person's stream and they type and it's like, man, I didn't mean to offend you. It's like, wait a minute. You didn't offend me, right? You're doing the same thing here. So you typed in pizza and then a streamer responds like, oh yeah, what type of pizza are you talking about? You choose another, you type your response again, and then the streamer responds. But you see the irony here. These people spend most of the time interacting, thinking of 2D animation and 3D animation with no adherence to understanding how facial structure, like reading the person. So one of the things that are always interesting is when someone coincidentally is watching the same streamer as I am, right? And my interpretation of what the person is saying, but what they're doing and how they're looking coincides to a different conclusion almost consistently with someone who spends most of their time not interacting or seeing or watching humans act. That includes movies, shows, television, storytelling. So a lot of that does lead to a roundabout way of saying that yes, this will probably be really jarring design choice to do for Cabaret Club. But the first thing in my head is I already know. Well, first of all, I already knew this was going to happen. I already prefaced into this. However, when I saw that they decided to do this, but they went, I didn't know how deep they were going to go. They actually recorded all the scenes. This is so normal to me, but in my back of my head, all I can think about is this is the interaction you have with Cabaret Club, like the stuff up to this point still comes nowhere near having a human actor. Like just nowhere in the vicinity of it. And sure enough, there are still going to be individuals who avoid this, who would say, "Oh no, but she's just like it's all cringy and it's all acting." It's like, well, you don't understand it. It's only cringy because you avoid it. You do not know the nuance of acting since you don't spend most of the time looking at a human face. So a lot of times when live action gets interrupted into video games, it takes a lot of time to adapt. It's because it's alien. It's not the same. And RGG is really brave about this because this, without a doubt, is probably one comment that if I go in and read most of the journalists stuff, they're gonna bring up the fact that this is very jarring, and some will say we got used to it, some will say no, and then the topics and stuff are still very superficial. And what I mean by that is in a deep sense, it's like chatting with strangers, and most people are probably thinking about Lost Judgment, where it was narrative based, but it's not a Cabaret Club setting. So you usually enter casual conversations in here. What it doesn't show is the actors' facial interactions. It's an environment, it tells a lot too. So when you interact with a streamer, right? A streamer who's a human being who have facial expressions, hand movements and stuff, especially an Asian person a lot of times, non-verbal communication makes up far more than the verbal communication. So it's very ironic that the reason why an underappreciation for human acting happens is this intuitive nature, like, oh, I'm around humans all the time, so I understand it. It's boring. It's cringy. I understand what they mean. When you talk to someone who's actually interested in human interaction, you are way off the mark. So far off the mark. And you extract like 10% of what the human is trying to tell you because you don't spend time in that environment. Now, it's also the same for the opposite. While you're spending time with a human, you probably don't know a lot about like the expressive emoting of the Twitch culture or something. But, you know, when you're expressing pepegas and emotes, you are already practicing something that can't translate to human interaction. I'm like in this way. Emoting is a different form of human interaction. But this, well, if you want social relationship with someone very close, you're probably going to encounter this. So if you think this is cringy and makes you uncomfortable, then there are going to be a lot of struggle times ahead. So to me, it's kind of funny, but I don't know. I don't know if RGG is like, oh yeah, we should do this so that we can normalize youth in interacting with human beings and getting used to seeing a human face again. You know, like acting and cosplaying and stuff. Like if you go to a convention, probably have something like this. This interaction might actually occur at a convention. So, and to me, emotionally, it's very normal, right? Intellectually, all I can think about right now as a legacy player is I really liked all the Cabaret Club stuff, or the girlfriend, love interest stuff of like Casca and the Judgment series. When I see an actor do this, I get reminded of everything that it doesn't do or can't do, which is smile while the whole face stretches, like have different mannerisms, how the tone changes with the lip movement. There are great scenes by like things like Pixar and shout outs to Pixar and Walt Disney Studios, right? Those really intimate scenes that they can capture some of the slight lip movements and stuff, but that stuff just comes habitually and naturally to a human actor. Yet when people watch like stuff, they get distracted more and invested more by action. Well, action is in the subtlety of the performance. So what is lacking is what I'm saying RGG does really well as a video game as a video game director. When Kiryu and Hanawa is sitting there at the temple talking for a really long time, what they're trying to do is subtly like move the eyes and jerk the eyeballs and the eyelids and then like move the head down, and then you have the passive camera framing and stuff, is because a human actor, when you look at the human being, is doing all of that times 1,000. So you're trying to recreate a human talking to a human being in animation, and when you try ambitiously to do like micro movements in eyes and lids, like that stuff is incredibly important to storytelling when your game features so much talking. And RGG does that the best they can with a limited engine. It is really limited. And still, there are other far higher production efforts that reduce the potential performance or attention detail because it's diminished return. Like, for example, you might be thinking, oh yeah, but my favorite games are so expressive. What are your favorite games? Dark Souls 3. Do you even know what the face looks like when you're playing Dark Souls 3? Like, Capcom's got pretty okay when it comes to like some of their peeps, but look at their face and try to get an even long scene of talking. They don't. They avoid it a lot of times because you have to do this. You have to rig the face while talking. I don't know if you've ever talked to a camera and record yourself and see what your face does, but a streamer seldomly look over themselves and just stare at their face while they're talking. I can tell you now that I really don't like doing that, but what I have done is, because of public speaking and giving speeches and teaching and instructing, I have practiced in front of a mirror before. So if you've never practiced in front of a mirror, that's a great way to start, because I do things with my hands, my head tilting, or like my son nods and eye jerking and stuff, those are developed in a way to convey the proper message that most people intuit. Now, if you're someone who don't see this all the time or observe IRL people and subtly look at their facial expressions and stuff, when you go to chat with someone who isn't from your same generation, right? The likelihood of you bumping into another person who doesn't like to be in IRL is very rare. So you try to meet them. But most of the time when you go out, you're going to meet someone who's used to human interaction. So, of course, you're going to appear socially awkward. Right? Because the moment you interact with them, like a job interview, Josh, a job interview, teaching someone else, like IRL, you're going to convey misinformation. Like, so when you're saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm okay. And then the first thing you're probably going to get is you look upset. It's like, well, I always look like this. Social awkwardness. Because you haven't conveyed how you look upset. Since you don't do it. You don't see it. So in a different environment, especially a one-on-one environment, without normalizing, you're gonna get those comments all the time. And when I was a kid, like 21 or younger, it always seems like that. Everyone comes up, like more social people will come up and say like, are you okay? Is there something wrong? It's like, no, I'm just thinking. It's like, are you thinking? It kind of looks like you're is it something upsetting you're thinking about? It's not normalized. Your face doesn't exude the nonverbal communication. So if you're thinking, is acting easy or hard or something like that, beyond like pretending to be someone, well, acting, you have to use your face and hand to deliberately communicate a consistent message that the vast majority of people will interpret the same way. So that is super hard. And let's break down even to a further metagame. This person has to act in front of a camera for video game people. Now think about what the performance has to take care of. I don't know if she is thinking of this. For me, if I were asked to act, right? I can think of voice acting. Voice acting is great because I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with my face, hands, and gesture to communicate to the target audience. The target audience has to understand the facial things, right? So it's very appropriate, in my opinion, to hire someone who is used to that culture, and who other than one of the biggest Kiryu fans, right? This is a really big deep cut. It involves this game. This leads to another big digression, and it's gonna come up for this game. The English audio, the English track, the English voice actors are delayed. It's going to be released and soon, and we're gonna play this again, right? Because in English, there was a lot of divisive comments about how you don't hire influencers, you don't hire social media people, you don't hire gamers and stuff to do a voice actor, a professional voice actor's job. Let's think about that for a moment. So you're saying that you're okay with someone who professionally acts for a medium that can't possibly empathize with you. So it's not to say that they can't still do their job, because the professionals have method acting. It's about if they can do their job. So a professional actor will method act their way into empathy and whatnot, or scholastically study So like if you ask like a Hollywood star or like a celebrity, they will do a study of gamers' interpretation of what type of voice line, like what type of like intonation and whatnot. And if they have to perform in front of a camera, they would first look and do their proper research if they're a professional actor. What I'm gonna be saying here is a really minority opinion here, because it's the biggest negative against this game, Like a Dragon Gaiden, is that people think that voice acting cannot be achieved to a quality with people who actually play video games and participate and empathize and do the things you guys do. In fact, I would say if they and one thing's true, I would concede this. They say like, oh yeah, RGG is just cheap. They want to hire the cheaper talent, just plug them in, use them for their influence. It's like, well, they are probably cheaper. Absolutely. And there's probably some compromise, some deal. But they are still just as likely to provide a performance that is more in line with what gamers and fans would anticipate or expect. If you ask a professional, if their main medium is not video games, it takes a lot of cost and time if they were to meet the requirements, right? And it can fall really terribly. Case in point, that's why English and Japanese has always been quite contentious, because the English voice actors used to often come from a perspective of English voice acting. We're not talking about like when you hire professional actors to do English, like the good big guys, they don't even know the source material yet until they accept the thing. So they have to do studying and stuff. It's still just as likely that they do not have that empathy and years of exposure. Much like when a person says live action can't capture the emotions that anime can. It's like, you're right, they can't. But in this situation, animation has not caught up to human acting. So there's appropriateness and there's skill-dependent competence. And one of them is often offset in a video game context. And that's the undervaluing of human performance. I don't think this is not emphasized enough. The things that people really love that are animated is because there's incredible performance capture used from human beings as reference. So like the stuff that they say like, oh yeah, it's so expressive, it's like that's a human being doing that expression, and then it was used as a reference for the animation. If you want to look at something that doesn't use human expression and see if they can pull it off, well, there are some good ones. There are some games that are incredibly impressive that did not use a human reference, but RGD does use human references and acting. That's why they actually take the likeness of their voice actor. This is another great digression, so I'm like committing to this digression. So we have two. This one is a big one. I'm basically tackling all the things that I've heard. The other one was the music choice for the theme song, and then the one before that was game options, game settings, like accessibility. So this is great. I'm happy for it. I didn't realize I didn't know who the VTuber looked like. Like I don't look up VTuber things. That's crazy that her audition was for live capture. Interesting. And thanks for confirming, Josh. I wasn't sure. I would have to look. that's a like digression, but I absolutely love these little takes. Anyways, and yes, I do like games. I also played games that had live capture. There's a very prominent indie, just a little slight side shout out. There's a very prominent indie dev that whole thing exclusively uses this, and the one that I played is Her Story, but it's this dev who uses this style of live capture. Is this dev? His name is Sam Barlow, and Her Story was pretty fantastic. But anyways, we'll see where he goes from that. But there are others like the Corey and the Quantic Dream people, right? They use performance capture for their acting. All right. Wait, didn't we already talk about pizza? Oh no, we didn't. We talked about hobbies. Hitting the bottle. Let's talk about pizza. You think she likes pineapples on her pizza? Well, she says she's American, right?
私ピッツァが大好物なんですけど、ジョーリュさんはピッツァ好きですか？
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while. My goodness, the voice is so familiar. Yeah. I worry about the Callie. I think he likes it now and then. I'm like trying to roleplay Kiryu. I mean, he's had a few side like sub story related pizza things, but there hasn't been, to this day, there hasn't been a scene in which Kiryu literally eats the pizza. Like, you haven't literally seen Kiryu consume a pizza. He's held a pizza. He's delivered a pizza. Yeah, the visa thing. I don't think we actually literally saw him, but it was implied that he's got a slice of pizza. You know?
たまに食べたくなるね。
たまにじゃなくてもピッツァはいろんな種類があるじゃないですか。ペパロニ、チーズ、テリヤキ。
Oh
なんだって
dang.
ローテーションすれば食
She
べられ
is
ます
most
って
definitely
毎日
American.
行きましょうよ。
Oh, that's, you know what? That's awesome. Like, it's so appropriate because she can speak. I think her Japanese is great. I mean, I can't speak any Japanese, but I think it's excellent. Like, it's excellent enough that it doesn't sound like it's American. Like, there are some little things here and there that I can detect, but I don't speak Japanese. But then she can transition to English, which is so good, right? Well, we know because she said that, and yeah, she already said that she's born in America, in the United States. It was actually part of the character. I think she's actually playing herself. So, and obviously to me she doesn't look Chinese. So, and she speaks really great Jap, and they already said that she learned, tried like very hard. Is she playing herself? Like, what's her name? Can someone tell me what's her like? Not her stage name, but I don't know if she disclosed not her stage name. I'm sure her VTuber personality is different. I don't need a visa to visit Japan. Oh, that's cool. That's neat. I didn't realize that. Huh. Cool. You can freely travel to Japan. Wait, Hime Hajime is actually her real name? Cool. Hajime, huh? What can I give her? How about nourishment bestowed by the Sea King, right? Here you go.
Oh my god! Thank you! ありがとう!
What do you mean not to be confused with the VTube? Oh, is her stage name for VTubing is different too? So her name is Hime Hajime, but her VTuber personality is not Hime Hajime. Interesting. There's a VTuber named Hime Hajime. Her VTuber is okay, K-Son? Son? I don't is it supposed to be like K-Son? Oh, that's cool. I love it. This is awesome. I didn't realize it was this, so I wasn't ready for this. I didn't prep anything for this. So I needed to know these information. I was gonna look it up. I usually prep a little bit, like background prepping for some highlights in the games things. So, oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. That's fair. Sin snap. Okay. So alright. So Jason and yeah, so this is Hime Hajime. Adorable.
今日とっても楽しかった。ありがとうございます。
Onegaishimasu. She even does the bow and the stuff. That's great. I love it. Good for her. I was waiting for when it was gonna appear because Joshing told me about it way back, like when I was still playing Kiwami 2 or something. Because I'm thinking Kiwami 2 or Yakuza 0 because that's when the Cabaret Club stuff was like off the charts because of the Cabaret Club mode, right? And wow, good for her. Neat. Very neat. It was totally worth the digression because it set up so well. All right, so now we're finally gonna go to Osaka Castle. Awesome. But yes, it's incredibly different now. Like the people my age, like my friends and stuff, they're like we're used to that, and when we talk and stuff, there isn't that weird interaction where, like, you know how when someone says, yeah, I'm okay, and they have like the most depressing look on their face, and the idea is that you're saying one thing but you're definitely acting a different thing. The confusion here is a lot of people, like an accurate measurement a lot of times would be if someone is upset, if someone is upset, right, and they need to help you, like say you're asking for help, well, you can't express asking for help while saying you don't need any help. It's very it's a very important skill or awareness when you're saying like, oh, I really need help, but I'm so stubborn. But if you can express that naturally, then someone can see that you need help, right? They can help you, offer or be excited with you. So it's a really interesting skill to have when you can understand different things. So like for me, I don't act this way, or I don't behave naturally this way in a different context. If I'm sitting and sharing a meal with some colleagues, my behavior is different. And what I mean by that is it's not really acting. It's just using the skills to portray the necessary nonverbal communication And you might be thinking, well, I don't ever have to do that. Well, if you ever enter a Chinese house or go to Japan when you're not Japanese, it becomes very obvious to a culture that relies on nonverbal cues, like nonverbal communication. It becomes very disruptive. They're not gonna, in both Chinese and Japanese, they're gonna be polite, but the first thing that's gonna say is, "You're a foreigner." That's the first alert. It's like 36 different flags by the time you say hello. It Asian cultures, at least from my experience, and me personally as a Chinese person, it's nonverbal cues. Like nonverbal communication is incredibly dramatic, and it doesn't really get captured in animation. Like it really doesn't. It expresses it a lot in animation though. Like that's it, but it doesn't happen as like it's trying to. Anime has budgets. Imagine spending so much time creating every like detail. It's almost unfathomable next to rigging. So rigging is pretty good. Then you have performance capture, which is even better. And then you have machine learning and AI powered performance capture, which is even better than that, which is like a layer of defaking and all that stuff. So it's getting there, I would say, but nowhere close to create competence. And that's just my thing. I just want to. I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying don't just always watch the thing you want. It's that you have to remember what you're giving up, what you're trading off. And reading people is not the same as judging and discriminating against them or stereotyping them. Reading people means you're doing it actually earnestly learning and accurately understanding what's happening. So when a person goes to audition for a job, that's literally executing that experience. How do you do that when you're looking at rigged models all the time, right? And then when you go get a job, how do you know when your employer is absolutely confused by your face while listening to the words coming out of your mouth? Well, you don't. You're not used to it. You probably don't even want to look at the employer. It's not normal. So if you play a game that has you looking directly at the subject all the time, there's a chance you develop some sort of self-awareness that you're doing it. Like, for example, if you were doing that cabaret sequence, where was your eyes? Where were your eyes? I just want to know. It would be really fun. Don't answer that. It's a rhetoric. You have to ask yourself, where were your eyes? What were you doing with your eyes? Do you know that you're actually doing that? You wouldn't know. Nothing is capturing. I can tell you where my eyes were. It was not actually on her, unfortunately. It was on her lips. Like, it's not where you thought it was. I was paying attention to her lips most of the time. Like, how she was articulating the Japanese. Because I want to know how she's doing it. Because she's going to transition fluidly from English to Japanese. So I was more on her eyes. And her glasses. Because I was particularly interested in glasses. I'm interested. I'm in the market for, like, frame ideas. Oh, okay. So Hime Hajime was the original name she went by on Nico Nico. Okay. The reason why I asked, you don't have to, like, you guys don't have to farm for her real name. I asked for a name that's not her alias. But a lot of times when you have VTubing or you're doing personalities, discretion is a thing. So I'm not saying that she has to or you should find. There's a very likelihood that she continues to operate under a pseudonym because VTubing has risks. There are like involvements in being an online personality and unfortunately statistically female, so there are risks. So using a pseudonym is fine. I mean, it's not just her. There's like authors, right? Authors who write stuff or research. Their pseudonyms happen all the time. So I think Hime is good enough. I'm sure if we say Hime Hajime, it's a little there are two, like, not the VTuber. That's a little thing. So I'm really just, K-Sun is good enough because it's unique, right? It's unique enough and recognizable. When I looked at Like a Dragon stuff, she's named as K-Sun. Okay, so we just refer to her as that because that would be the most referential. Kiryu Coco. So apparently she wants some addition to, yeah. That's where that's why I'm so enthusiastic about that sequence, because Joshing told me about it like 5 months ago when I first played like one of the first 3 titles. Now we're 11 titles in. Is it 11? 10. This is number 10. We haven't played Ishin, which is probably gonna be 11, or Infinite Wealth is gonna be 11. Anyways, let's go to Osaka Castle, roam around a little, and probably call it a day for that. We're finally gonna get to meet the other dude, the one that has been showcased, as we slowly RP walk into Akame. Well, howdy there, Joryu. What's up? I went to that cabaret club. Oh, the immersive one, right? So how was it? Immersive? Yeah, it was. It was more captivating than any other club I've been to. The girls felt so genuine. So real. It's a fourth wall break. Yeah, see, RGG knew exactly what they were doing. No, like, this removes all doubt. Like, dude, before this, they had a conversation about immersive, and I thought they were gonna say a VR club. You know, like, when you walk in, there's gonna be VR cabaret club. Like, I was ready for the Judgment treatment where, like, it's Paradise VR but with cabaret club, but they were really referring to the live action. So they knew it's all planned. Like, it's a fourth wall break intentionally. So you know what? Because of that, it gets even better. I don't even think it's an immersion break, because clearly they know what they are doing. They even set up the joke. It's so good. In my opinion, that's, where was that in the whole, like, divisive stuff? They're like, dude, guys, listen. It's not an immersion break. It's a fourth wall break. Which, admittedly, a fourth wall break is an immersion break, but still, it's so good. It felt so genuine. I think there's a deep cut in here too about, like, acting and whatnot, and we don't know what K-Sun's, like, personal, like, you know, like, personal interest and stuff is. Maybe it's her personality, like her persona or not, but it sounded like she was playing, like, herself as the professional, right? So of course it's genuine. It's like a meta break too, right? So it's a meta break because it's probably also genuine, even though she's an actress, like, she's acting, right, for a role, but she might be playing a character under a pseudonym, but that character might actually be genuine because it's a reflection of her own character, actually. I think they know what they were doing. Absolutely. It's so good. I love it. I can't get enough of this. More of this, dude. I know this is gonna sound out of the park, but this is kind of how I feel when you do like SNL skits. Oh, you know what's a great example of this that I just watched recently? I just got a chance to catch the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage, a fictional version of him in the movie, and it did really well because Nick Cage's movies are a little bit iffy. And dude, that's exactly what just happened here. It's wonderful. It was wonderful. Nick Cage playing a fictional version. Everyone else was playing a different character. Like, you know, Pascal was playing, but Nicolas Cage was playing a fictional version of something. That's what I feel like here. Like, K-Sun played a fictional version of herself, but she auditioned as a fan to do it. Dude, there's so many layers. And honestly, more of this. I want to see more of this. Like, somehow RGG just like, hey, we want to squeeze your catchphrase in here. Can you like I mean, they're up to the modern age, right? So now their games have to take modern influence, and modern influence typically comes with something you can empathize with. So you need video game culture and stuff. There are many other ways, and before anyone says they're not doing that, they already did it. They already teased it, because in Infinite Wealth, right? In Like a Giant Infinite Wealth, there's a long cutscene where the characters in this game are conversing on a live stream feed of a VTuber hosting and talking to them like a guest star, like, you know, like a podcast. I swear, if Kiryu ends up on a podcast if Kiryu ends up on a podcast, just sitting there chilling, and it's like a Twitch stream with an overlay, I don't know. I think my head is gonna explode in digression. But yeah, all I can remember is one day she was streaming under the influence of sleep. That's a little. Hope she's doing okay. Yeah, let's go. This is great. I love it. I hope they continue to be this like quippy. It's so quippy. So technically we're still in the RGG verse. So what Kiryu just saw is a different universe. This is what this reminds me of as well. Rick and Morty, or like things like dimensional stuff. So dimensional comedy. Basically, if you had like Rick and Morty, Family Guy, or something like that, where they somehow find their way into a different dimension and it becomes live action, right? And then they come back to their universe. It's like, whoa, that feels a little weird. Why do I feel so squishy? So many comedy movies, like comedy shows, like in the West has done that before, where animation suddenly they just like, what would they look like in IRL? So they did it in IRL, but it's part of the storytelling. It was part of the gimmick, right? It was part of the. So Kiryu probably just met an IRL girl. I can't right now. Sorry. I've lost it. Let's just go and get to Osaka Castle before I run out of steam here.